Excellent. Good morning, everyone. It is 9:02, and I'd like to call the June 9th, 2022 meeting of the Connecticut Paid Leave Board of Directors to order. Amber, would you please take the roll call?
Sure. Thank you, Michelle. Okay. Ava Bermuda Zimmerman.
Present.
Isha Canada.
Present.
Adrian Cochran will not be joining us today. Britt Marie Cole Johnson. Britt Marie has not yet joined us. Daryl Dudzinski.
Present.
Michelle Gilman.
Present.
Sheila Hummel.
Present.
Sal Luciano has not yet joined us. Alexander Marcelino has not yet joined us. Fran will not be joining us today. John Scott.
I'm here.
Thank you. Mike Soltis.
Here.
Thank you. Molly Weston Williamson.
Here.
Good morning, Molly. Holly will not be joining us today, and Justin Zartman. I do not believe Justin has joined us yet, but we do have a quorum. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amber. And I do want to acknowledge that Representative Robin Porter has joined us, and we want to thank you for that. And we may have other legislators as well join us through the course of the meeting. So thank you so much again for joining us today.
Morning.
And with that, I'd like to thank also the public for joining us for our meeting this morning. Look forward to your participation as well, and also for our staff that will be providing report outs, and also for your daily work for the authority as well. So thank you so much. So next I'll move to the agenda item on the minutes. So review and approval of the May 12th, 2022 minutes, which were distributed last week. Are there any corrections? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the May 22 minutes. Daryl.
Second?
Second, Scott.
And any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to Aaron providing a discussion of the annual report that's due to the legislature on July 1st of this year. Aaron?
Thank you so much, Commissioner. I'm just going to share my screen just to give you a sense of what we're talking about. The authority actually has two reports that we will have to submit to the legislature and the governor's office in OPM. The first is due on July 1st. The second is due in September. We're focusing on the July 1st one, which really requires us to provide information about the program itself, the participation in the program, which we include as being both the employers registered and contributing, as well as the claimants. Information about the balance of the paid leave trust, the reasons people are getting benefits from us. They ask us to report out on our outreach and education efforts, as well as demographic information about the claimants and claims made and denied. This is because it's our first one, we're also working to create a little bit of history. So folks who read the report know who we are and what we're all about. This is a project that a lot of us on the staff are working on, headed by Jacqueline, who's doing a great job. And we should have a draft to send out to each of the board members next week. We will email it to you and then ask you to send us your comments or questions individually, so we don't create a virtual meeting, so that we can then pull everything together and get it submitted by the end of the month. And then we'll do it all again later on in the summer when we have to report out on more of the financial stuff that's required in September. Any questions about the report? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron. And next, would you also please lead the discussion regarding the policies posted for public comment?
Certainly. So in April, I have to remember, we've done so many policies. In April, we asked the board for permission to post for public comment and public notice and comment 2 policies. One relating to the definition of concurrency. Our statute says that employees cannot receive compensation from us concurrently with benefits from workers' comp, UI, or any other state or federal program. So we wanted to really more clearly define what is meant by concurrency. The second policy relates to contributions. As you know, employees contribute up to, or 1/2% up to the Social Security contribution and benefit-based limitation. The question came up as to what happens if an employee works for part of the year for an employer that participates in our program and part of the year for an employer that participates in a private plan. And because we treat those participations completely separately for purposes of eligibility for benefits, it makes sense also to treat them separately for purposes of contributions. So the policy is that if you're contributing to the public plan for 7 months out of the year, and then you switch employers and now have a private plan, or the employer switches to a private plan during the year, you sort of reset your contribution. So as I said, in April, the board authorized us to post these for public comment. We did so. They were out. It was published on May 3rd. We received a number of requests for copies of the policies. We did not receive any comments or questions or proposed edits regarding the policies. So now we will be asking the board to approve the policies as drafted so that they can take effect officially. Stop sharing.
Excellent. Any additional comments or questions from the board? Otherwise, we'll proceed to a vote. May I have a motion to adopt the policy? I'm sorry, I have a motion to adopt the policy regarding concurrent government benefits?
Motion to adopt as described the public policies that were posted for comment. Daryl.
Second that, Scott.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries, or I'm sorry, any abstentions? And then motion carries. Thank you so much. And next, I'm so sorry because I need some guidance on the next agenda item. My apologies, Andrea or Aaron.
So it's the motion to adopt the policy related to the contribution cap when a person switches from private to public or vice versa.
Okay. So may I have so that is the Social Security contribution?
Yes.
Okay. So may I have a motion to adopt the policy regarding Social Security contribution and benefit-based limitations on contributions made to public and private plan A?
Motion to adopt the Social Security contribution benefit-based limitation on contributions made to the public and private plan. Daryl.
And is there a second?
Second, Scott.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you so much, Aaron, for your support on that. And next, we will move forward to the claims administration updates. John, can you please proceed on that update?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everyone. Just going to share my screen.
We can see your screen, John.
Thank you. Okay, so the claims presentation today are claims filed as of 6/6. And total intake of claims 45,746, and May we wound up with 7,673, and so far through June 6th we are at 1615. And then we wanted to provide you some more information today. The claims received status here is a reflection of the approved claims as of 6/8, and those are a total of 21,589 claims approved, and that represents 47% of the total claim load. Denied claims as of 6/8, 14,457, and that represents 31% of the claim load. The current pending claims as of 6/8 represents 6,828 claims, and that's 15% of the claim load. And just to kind of illustrate what that is the number of claims that have been intaken and that are pending a decision. The pending claims block less the item below, which is the backlog. The backlog is currently showing at 132 claims, and that backlog is defined as pending claims more than 5 business days past receipt of all completed documents. So when thinking about the pending claims block, the pending claims block less the backlog is a normal number, which is to be expected and reflects any new claims being initiated, as we have to give them time to produce the required documents. So one other way to think about that as well is looking at the monthly intake in May at 7,600. That currently that pending claims block represents approximately about 4 weeks of claims intake. Any questions on that at all? Okay.
John, I'm sorry.
Yes.
What would the difference in the percentages that you have listed to the right? It doesn't add up to 100. So what would be the other cohort?
There's still a few other categories there, some of which are canceled, Daryl, that probably makes up the next biggest block. And that's somebody that initiated a claim and then for one reason or another wanted to cancel the claim, as they were, either were unable to do so or whatever the case may be, but that was a customer initiated item. And then there are a couple of other categories there as well, but those are much smaller components.
So 2 things just to add. One is we also get people who initiate by accident multiple claims. And so we have to administratively cancel out the duplicate claims. And then just on the pending block, I want to point out that our partners at AFLAC have really done an amazing effort to bring the backlog, which, as John said, is we have 5 business days from receipt of the sort of 3 sets of documents: identity verification, employment verification, and documentation of your leave reason. So we have 5 business days to make a decision from that. That's our aspiration. We had a really large backlog for a very long time, and AFLAC has done an incredible effort to bring that back down, and are committed to even getting those 132 kind of cleaned up by the end of the weekend. So we are now really in steady state where every given day that we receive a claim, we have to provide up to 2 weeks for people to provide us benefit documents. And so we're always going to have claims in pending status, because it's just not possible to expect that everyone will have all of their documents the moment they apply. So that 6,000 number, 6,000 to 7,000, is actually what we're going to be considering our run rate. Molly, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, thank you. I did want to ask, so I know there's been a lot of discussion lately around the time that it's taking for claims to be processed, and I appreciate having that 132 number. I was wondering if Erin, you or Don or someone else could talk a little more about, I know part of the problem has been claims that from the authority perspective are not complete yet, that like don't have all their documents in, but I think from a worker perspective, they feel like they're done. And I was wondering if you could talk a little more about sort of what, like, I know the authority is taking steps around those kind of things, and I was wondering if someone could just talk a little more about those steps.
Yeah, Aaron, I can start. If
Yep.
it's okay with you. Yeah. So that is true. What we've discovered is that workers generally have a different definition of what ready means. And so we can do a better job of communicating what a completed claim looks like. And that's really what we've been working on. Because in some instances, we do have workers that have submitted their claims where they may have just submitted their medical certification or their employment verification form or just their identification. And because they've submitted some form of documentation, from their perspective, they've submitted something and their claim is complete. So we've noticed that there's an enormous amount of confusion as people are turning things in. So as AFLAC is communicating with people to say, your claim, thank you for what you sent, but your claim really isn't complete because we need these 3 categories of data. Part of the frustration that we've experienced, and this is part of the learning curve we had with AFLAC, is being more timely in communicating that, because as people are going into their portal, their claim is being categorized as pending, but we always haven't been very clear about what pending really means and what's missing, and having that communicated in a timely manner so that people can act on it and then get their eligibility decision. And so we realize that that's a challenge that we can meet, I think, probably more appropriately with more communication, right? And more frequent communication and clearer communication. And we see some improvement happening in that area. So we see people are now starting to go back and so AFLAC's doing a much better job in terms, and also our own internal team with getting back to people and saying, yes, but you only gave us your driver's license and we really can't give you benefits just based on your driver's license. So we really need you to do something else. And we're sorry that it took us 3 weeks to tell you that you didn't have anything more than your driver's license. So I hope that answers the question, because we see where the weaknesses are and we're trying to fix that.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was
Okay.
thinking.
Just to be a little concrete about that, among the things that Andrea alluded to are revising the intake letter to really be very bold and more simple about what's missed, like what is needed. It's there, but you have to sort of read it. It's a smaller font. Also revising the process to automate the, hey, if you have no documents in, like there's going to be an automated message so that doesn't wait. And then we're also working to create checklists that can live on the portal. We have a checklist on our website, but if you're in the portal itself, looking at your claim, it'll be possible to kind of see that, oh, okay, yeah, this is what's needed. These are the codes. So if I'm looking at my claim and I see an ERV, ERV means employment verification form. Gotcha. I see that it's there. So we're just trying to be very concrete about getting that information out. And then if you are following us on social media, and if you aren't, you should be, and you should share. Jess has been doing a great job of getting the message out as to what kind of documents are needed and the timeframes and how you can get things done. So we're really hitting it on all measures.
One other thing that I would add to that as well is that currently at AFLAC, there's an effort underway, which is a longer term effort to provide more detailed information in the portal, kind of a timeline of where your claim is in process, and providing more detailed information that will not be forthcoming until probably sometime in the fourth quarter or thereabouts, as it requires some programming, et cetera. But the goal there is to attempt to reduce some of the customer call intake, et cetera, by providing them more detailed information as it becomes available, that they can provide self-service in obtaining that information for themselves and have a much better sense of where their claim is in the process.
Isha, I see you have a comment or question.
Yes, I do. I was just wondering, are we starting to consider a role that technology may be able to play in automating, some of the verification processes, of course, securely, right? So whether it be identification, having multi-step identification to be able to do that electronically, as well as, workflows to submit information from the claimant to their provider, using some sort of entity, maybe DocuSign or something else, so that it kind of speeds up the cycle time a little bit faster. So I'm just wondering if the authority is thinking about how technology can help in this space.
I would say we're always thinking about ways that technology can help. But some of the solutions that just the specific ones that you've identified aren't necessarily feasible in our current platform. So that's one of the reasons that we're asking to re-platform so that we can have more flexibility. And then we also have to work with our partner in terms of what they can provide with respect to security as well. We would, though, I think one of the most frequently asked things that we have from our employers is to be able to automate that employment verification form. They really hate the fact that it's manual. But what we explained to them is that with the time constraints to get the program stood up, we had to make some decisions about what would be manual and what would be automated. And we really wanted the application process for claimants to be automated, and we would work on the rest of the process as we went along. The other thing people ask us a lot for is to be able to send their medical certifications directly from the doctor electronically, to the authority. And that's another thing that we're looking to do, with the security issue obviously being top of mind. So we have, I see some of our Aflac partners are on today. They will confirm we meet with them a lot. They're probably talking to one of us or many of us almost every single day. And then there are formal meetings at least twice a week. And one of those meetings is a technology meeting where there is a specific list of all the things that we would like to see automated either immediately or within the next few quarters. And many of the things that you've identified are on that list. And so we are continuing to work through them. John, I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to add to that.
No, I just concur with what you have stated in terms of always looking at technological solutions and the possibility of implementing those in order to enhance productivity in the processing of these claims. As Andrea alluded to, some of it is a little more challenging than other parts of it, particularly as it relates to the verification of those particular documents. But yes, we're always looking at that and trying to identify better ways. I mean, given the timeline with which Aflac was contracted with and the deliverable and the short length of time there, certainly there's some looking back at elements that need to be reviewed and make some adjustments to things that were initially set up, and certainly we're doing that on an ongoing regular basis.
Oh, that's awesome. And I continue to, offer my support in any way that I can help offline. So not that these things aren't already on your list, but to the degree that there's some complexity in thinking about them and some heavy lifting with exploring other solutions, happy to help.
Thank you. I'll move on.
Thank you.
Okay, so claims by reason. Cumulatively, employees' own illness or injury certainly outpaces the other categories at 22,820. Pregnancy and childbirth at almost 7,700, and bonding claims at a total of 9,300, and care of a family member at 5,530. And then the other categories are all outlined in the other table here, which are substantially lower numbers of claims, but some of those are moving up, and they've made outreach efforts for adoption and foster care that have paid some dividends. As you can see, some of the numbers there have started to tick up as well. And then demographics, again, looking at the age group 26 to 41 is by far the largest demographic group, age group that we've received claims from, and followed by the 42 to 57 and the 58 to 76. And then again, looking at the claims by gender, female is outpacing male here by an almost 2-to-1 margin. And then we gave you a little more detail here. Fran was inquiring about some more detail on the demographic breakdown of some of the claims intake. And so we put together claims by age group and leave reason. So that first block is age 18 to 25, and you can see the breakdown there between own illness, caregiver, bonding, and pregnancy, childbirth. Those are the 4 largest categories of claim intake that we have. And so there's a little more detail here, and you can see that again, the own illness is certainly the largest category, and how it breaks down with regard to the different age groups here. And then looking at leave reason by gender, and you can see here again the split between the different types of leaves and gender. And I think the next thing we'll look to produce that Fran was inquiring about was some relationship to the town data that we have as well. So we'll look to do that possibly for next month for you. And then the claims by type, continuous, intermittent, and reduced schedule. And again, the continuous claim certainly far outpaces the other categories, followed by intermittent and then reduced schedule claims. And here is that utilization chart of the top 10 towns. And again, some of the same towns that have been up there are still up at the top here. Canaan and some of these other towns have kind of moved around in the order a little bit, but still fairly consistent, with some of the rural towns representing a larger share of the claims per 10,000 residents when we do that analysis. And then the approved to date by leave reason, and that breaks down by percentage here. So again, the employee owned illness is by far the largest category, and then the bonding and pregnancy come in. And when you combine those, that's also a significant number on the approved side of about 47% or so, and the care of a family member. And then you can see the other categories are, again, substantially lower volume of claims. And then the customer care center, and that's the call center statistics. And that's the June to date figures here. So they have been working on some improvements there as well. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
John, thank you so much for the report. Data continues to be very insightful into the program and also with our vendor. So thank you again to you and the team for all of your work with AFLAC, and again, improving our metrics, improving our response really makes such a difference. And we're seeing that externally as well. So again, thank you for that report.
Thank you.
Moving on, Jessica, would you please provide the registration and contribution portal project and outreach and engagement updates?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Amber, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. Could you enable that for me? Thank you.
Should be good to go.
I was having some technical trouble earlier, so can I just have confirmation that you can see my screen?
We can see your screen.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so our program metrics update, this is as of June 8th. We have 137,059 businesses registered. That's an increase of almost 1,200 from our last report. And we have 633 third-party administrators registered. Our contributions stand at $518,155,614 received or in transit. We are at 591 approved private plans. That's an increase of 50 effective July 1st. 539 of those are fully insured and 52 are self-insured. And those private plans cover approximately 39,000 Connecticut workers. That is based on fourth quarter 2021 DOL data. And when compared to the workers that would have been covered in fourth quarter 2020. It's an increase of just about 800 employees. The Contact Us Center, we have 322 open inquiries right now, 419 new inquiries created this month, and 386 closed. And our total since September 2020 stands at 36,490 closed inquiries. Then with our internal benefits and small business support team, they currently have 78 open cases. They've closed 82 this month. I'm sorry, they've opened 82 new ones this month and closed 87. And since January, when they started this effort, they have closed over 1,000 cases. And the number of workers covered by the public plan stands at 1.6 million. Again, this is using fourth quarter DOL data 2021, and compared to fourth quarter 2020, there is an increase of 106,000 individuals covered. In terms of our portal activities for June and July, on the employee registration and contribution side, we continue, of course, with production support. The detailed design for fund recovery continues. The resource and project planning is in progress, and the bond funding has been approved for that project. And we are reviewing potential solutions for private plan audits as well. On the benefit and claim administration side, the team continues to work on integrating AFLAC claim and payment data into our Connecticut Paid Leave platform. From there, I will shift to outreach and engagement updates. Website statistics since last month, we presented January through April. I thought I would keep it going and show you what's happening in May. So you can see in May that our total users, new users, sessions, and total page views dropped just slightly. And that is because in April, it was the end of our Q1 grace period for payments. So we saw more volume coming to the site. But the number of visitors remains pretty steady when looking back at February and March. So we're still seeing good traction to the website. And in the blue box, you just see the cumulative numbers from the beginning of the year. So over 382,000 users, generating close to 1 million sessions, 3.42 million page views. They're looking at almost 4 pages per session and spending over 3 minutes on the site, which are all really good statistics. People are coming, they're looking around, and they're staying for a while. So we know that they're consuming the content that we're putting on the site. Quick events update. Amber participated in a wellness resource fair on our behalf in Newington this past weekend. Thank you, Amber, for doing that for us. This weekend, Nancy will be in West Hartford for the Celebrate West Hartford event, and we're doing that in partnership with the Small Business Collective, which is a group that strives to provide different services that small businesses and entrepreneurs would need when starting out. And then we are also kicking off our presence at the minor league baseball stadiums this month. So I will be at the Norwich Sea Unicorns on the 23rd. Erin will be participating in the Connecticut Teamsters Annual Stewards Seminar in Stratford later on this month. We will be at the Hartford Yard Goats on June 30th, and then at the New Britain Bees on July 7th. So if you are in any of those areas, we would love to have you visit us at these events. It's been a bit since I provided a newsletter update, so just wanted to share some of our most recent newsletters. We did a TPA newsletter. This was actually our first one that we did to TPAs, and it will be a regular newsletter. And we saw almost a 35% open rate with that and a 3.4% click-through rate. So we're very pleased with those numbers. Our most recent human resources newsletter, we saw a 34% open rate and a 5.4% click-through rate. So as Erin had mentioned, social media is one of the outlets that we use to try to educate our both businesses and workers about the different things that they can do to sort of help speed up the claims decision process. And the newsletters are definitely a source that we use frequently to help employers understand what they need to do and what they can do in order to help speed up that process. A few new articles. These are linked, so when Amber sends out the deck, you'll be able to read them if you would like to. Mother Today is an online source, obviously targeting moms, and they published an article about our program and the 2.5-year journey that got us to where we are today. And then there was an op-ed written by Takesha Everett, the Executive Director of Health Equity Solutions, and that was published in the Well News, which is an online news source. So we're pleased that we're getting some wider traction in some of these different publications. We also just placed an ad in the White Eagle. The Little Poland Festival returned to the state after, I think, a 2-year hiatus. So we placed an ad in their special edition, which was distributed to over 30,000 festival attendees this past Sunday. It was a bilingual publication and attracted visitors from throughout the state. So we do continue to reach out to some of our different audiences where we think that we need a little bit more of a niche approach in order to reach them. I also wanted to mention that we have been doing a series of Did You Know style press releases. And so you see here, we've sent out 3 so far, and we're using these press releases to talk about different topics that are maybe not as well known with the paid leave program. So for example, the first one talked about victims of family violence and how the program can assist them. The second talked about qualifying exigency leave for military. And then one that just went out this week addressed the broader definition of family with relationship by affinity for anyone, but specifically because it's Pride Month, and we wanted to make sure that the LGBTQ community is aware of this. And then lastly, Nancy continues to do her fantastic work on the podcast. The most recent release was about foster care. She had 2 foster parents on as guests, as well as a representative from DCF. So you can head to our website and listen to that. We are up to about 650 total downloads. And to give you a preview of some upcoming topics, the next release will be, was actually a partnership podcast with WBDC. So it will be released both through our website and through the WBDC podcast platform on 6/13. And then Nancy is also working on a conversation with Wealth and an episode on caregiver leave with AARP as well. And that concludes my report. I am happy to answer any questions that anyone might have about our outreach and engagement efforts.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Are there any questions? Great update, really great progress. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any questions? Excellent. So moving on, we will move to Jacqueline Cozen, who will provide us with the legislative updates. Jacqueline?
Hi, thank you, Michelle. Good morning, everybody. Hope you've been enjoying the amazing weather we've been having. Just to piggyback on what Jessica mentioned with the podcast with DCF and foster care, we will be doing more outreach with them as well. We will be doing some webinars, and they will be distributing information specifically about paid leave to their foster families so that they know that we are available. So we're very excited about that partnership. I don't have much in terms of legislative update, like Connecticut legislative update, just because the legislature has been over and people seem to be out in the field working on re-election at the moment. But one thing that we are working on and very excited about is a congressional media tour around the state. Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro is going to be I guess kick it off with us. And the idea behind this is to be going to the editorial boards in each of the congressional districts of the key local outlet, major outlets, with some local data showing how paid leave is being used in the communities that the outlet serves. And then also do connections with the radio stations in those areas to go on and have interviews as well. And then also do a social media push at the same time, talking a little bit more about paid leave. And if time allows, doing a community event as well, a panel discussion about paid leave on the national level, in addition to what's going on here in Connecticut. As many of you probably do know, there is a major push going on nationally. And we're hoping to highlight that here in Connecticut, but also just using that as a way to leverage our program and spread an even larger word about it so that people know, and just trying to take a different approach to getting the word out. So we're really excited about that. And we, once we lock in a date with Congresswoman DeLauro, who has just been such a champion of this, we are so lucky that we have her representing us, just the way that she fights for families. But then we will move on to talk, with the Senate, booking with the U.S. senators as well as the other congressionals. So it's exciting. Scheduling is hard, because you could imagine with schedules, but we're really excited about it and hope to see a really good bump on it. So, and I've been mostly working on the annual report, which hopefully will be done and out to you. Well, it will be out to you next week for sure. So I'm hoping to have that wrapped up by tomorrow, but that's very ambitious, I think. Anyway. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me. Okay.
Any questions for Jacqueline?
If I have one, Commissioner, one thing that I'd like to add, if I could, before we move on from outreach and engagement, is Andrea is actually going to be doing the TEDx talk in New Haven this weekend. So we just wanted to mention that. We're very excited and proud, and I don't know, Andrea, to put you on the spot, but if you would like to say anything more specific about that.
Yes, it came as a complete surprise. They just tracked me down on LinkedIn when I commented on another speaker that I knew that was part of the lineup. So yeah, I'll be giving a TEDx talk on Saturday at around 5:30, and my topic is going to be 3 ways that you can be your own social justice hero. You don't have to save the world or be Mahatma Gandhi in order to make a difference in the world. So I'm excited to share that message.
Congratulations. That's wonderful. We will look out for that on Saturday.
Yes, absolutely. Congratulations.
And so as we close out the legislative report, I do want to again acknowledge Representative Robin Porter with us as well, and just want to thank you again for your advocacy as well within our state for all of these issues that we discussed today. So again, thank you. Again, no, we're not in legislative session, as Jacqueline indicated, but your continued advocacy is critical. So thank you again. Moving on through our agenda, we're going to our committee reports. So committee chairs, if you would please provide your respective reports, we'd be appreciative. We'll start with policy and personnel. Daryl, would you please begin with that report? Thank you.
Commissioner, for the Policy Personnel Committee, we met on June 1 last week, and we discussed the status of the 2 policies concurrently posted for public comment. And we also received an update on the private plan audit process. That's the update.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And then moving on, we have outreach and engagement. Molly and Ava, would you like to proceed with that report?
I actually missed this month's meeting, so I will defer to Ava if you have anything to add to Jessica's great report.
There was nothing to add. Very quick meeting. Jessica does a great job reporting how we're doing with outreach, and she did it today, so we're good.
Thank you so much. And next we have finance and audit. Dave, if you would provide that report.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Holly couldn't join us today, so we discussed the financial results for the month of April. So we're going to go over those now. Going to share my screen.
We can see your screen, Dave.
Thank you as always for the confirmation, Amber. Appreciate it. Okay, so for the month of April, the authority spent almost $1.1 million in expenditures. $445,000 of that was for salaries and related costs. $314,000 was used from bond money for the benefit appeals administration system that DOL was building on our behalf. $160,000 was for outreach, and $125,000 was for our contact center. So far, we are ahead of budget for the quarter by $2.4 million. Cumulatively, the authority has spent almost $24.2 million, almost $11.1 million in the current fiscal year. The categories continue to be the same in terms of where the significant spending is coming from: the employee contribution system, salaries and their related expenses, the claims and benefits system, support teams, post-production support, and outreach. Just spending a minute on bond funds. We still do have $12.2 million allocated for bond funds. Just recently, last month, there was another $3.8 million that was approved by the Bond Commission. We recently sent in the paperwork for that. So as soon as it is formally approved by the state, we will have access to it and update the schedule appropriately. But I do want to thank everybody involved with that for getting us through that next wave. As far as what bond money we've spent so far, it's almost everything is like is almost, because it was $900,000. So it was almost $11 million this month that we spent on bond money. Again, I said, as I said previously, before, we had spent over $300,000 on the appeals administration system. We do have another $200,000 in the hopper earmarked for a few things. So that puts us at about $11.2 million with a little over $1 million left of bond money available to us, not including the $3.8 million once it's approved. In terms of contribution money for April, I'm happy to report we had a record month in April, which was the grace month for the first quarter. We got over $120 million in April, and for the first quarter, we actually got $122 million, which was a record quarter for us. So we're happy to report that. Benefit payments for the month were $19.3 million. And the typical expenses for the month, $1.9 million for our admin fee to AFLAC, our quarterly admin fee of $4.2 million to the Paid Leave Authority as budgeted, and $319,000 for our repayment to the state. Contributions through the end of April are over $516 million. Benefit payments, including the deposit we made back in December, are $75 million. So that means benefit payments through April actually made to recipients are $55 million. And that leaves us with the fund at almost $411.5 million of funds available in the trust fund. Just a preliminary draft view of the expenses for May. The operating expenses were $847,000. Again, typical categories, salaries, support teams. This month we had some platform expenses for an annual license and outreach. Some good news, our monthly seed repayment this month was actually made from seed money that we never used. So instead of paying it out of the contribution fund, we paid back our seed money with unused seed money, and we'll be doing the same next month. So that leaves more in the contribution fund. Claims paid for the month of May were about $20.4 million, and the monthly claim amount was the usual at $1.9 million. Contributions through the end of May were almost $518 million. And as Jess pointed out earlier, through June 7th, we're at about $518.2 million. And as far as benefits are going, we have paid just about $87.5 million through June 4th. In terms of where we're going to be by the end of the year for operations, We budgeted $15.1 million. We believe we're going to be at $12.2 million. So we believe we'll be about $2.9 million ahead of the game, mostly due to less than anticipated spending for grievance adjudication, salaries and related expenses, and temp expense, and some consulting expense. And as far as where we believe the fund will be as of the end of June, we believe it'll be at about $359 million. We think contributions for the fiscal year will be at about $412 million, and benefit payments will be at about $125.5 million. We reduced that estimate since the last time. We had been using the actuarial estimate, but since June is only about 3 weeks away, we determined that we were not going to have the spending that the actuaries had predicted at that time. So we took it down based on the current run rate of spending that we've had so far. That's where we are right now. Does anybody have any questions? Ava.
So I was wondering, those numbers being so solid, does it have anything to do with the outreach that happened in the last few months of making sure people are compliant, or were those numbers projected to be at that amount? In
terms of the contributions?
Correct. Yeah.
Well, the outreach has certainly helped, but the increase for the current quarter is primarily based on two reasons. Number one, it's the beginning of a new calendar year. So if anybody had a FICA limit, that resets itself at the beginning of the year. So there are more people paying into the plan because there are less people, right? Because there are less people who are affected by the limit. Yeah. And also the first quarter is also typically when pay increases and bonuses are paid. And so that also, right, so that also increases it. And we actually saw last year's history, we saw that again. So those were the two primary drivers.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Ava. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that report, Dave. An excellent report again. For Ava's comment, you know, again, we're in solid position. In large part to the team's work, your work as well, of course, and really appreciate the comprehensive detail here. So thank you again to the team. So moving on, next agenda item is new business. And as chair, I'm going to take the liberty of mentioning two new business items that really are announcements. So I'm going to just acknowledge that it's Ava Bermudez Zimmerman's birthday today. So happy birthday. We need to announce good things. So happy birthday. Have a wonderful year ahead.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then I also want to acknowledge some very exciting news for our CEO, Andrea Barton Reeves. So she has just announced that she is going to be joining the Yale Divinity School as a social justice merit scholar. And she will really be focusing on leadership and training center for nonprofits and social justice leaders. So amazing opportunity. She is not going anywhere, just to make that very clear. This is an added bonus to the authority that she's participating in this incredible program. But Andrea, well-deserved, and congratulations on this incredible honor.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Any other new business now that I've taken liberty as chair to make those two announcements?
Madam Chair, I don't know if it categorize this as new business, but I'm hoping that you'll allow me a point of privilege so I can have an opportunity to thank my team for the extraordinary work that they have done always, but especially in the last 8 weeks when I have been out on leave. I've been trying to attend meetings, even though Erin, as you know, probably yells at me that I'm not supposed to be there, and she's absolutely right. But I also don't want to feel I don't want anybody to feel as if I've abandoned them. But I did have knee surgery. It's been very successful. I'm really pleased by that, but I'm even just more thrilled and grateful to have the extraordinary people that I work with, who you can see are just as competent as they come, really talented. They look forward to the future. They're excellent at solving problems. I do often say to myself, I don't know how lucky I don't know how I got so lucky to work with such an extraordinary group of people, but I'm really grateful for them. So I really wanted to thank them publicly for everything that they've done for the last 8 weeks and everything that they do every single day. I really am grateful. So thank you.
Andrea, it's great to see you back and glad your recovery is going well. And again, want to echo the thanks to Aaron and the full team during Andrea's absence, which I would also qualify was, somewhat of an absence because I would see her on email and, at meetings when she could be. So thank you again. Glad to see you here. Any other new business or points of privilege, we'll say? Okay, moving on, any old business? Okay, so with that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Daryl.
And is there a second?
Second, Mike.
Any, I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And any abstentions? Motion carries. It is 9:58 and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your work and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye, everybody.